So Google has made it really easy to make a quiz out of just a normal Google form. And so you can do this with a Google form that you already have existing, or you can use a new form to solely create a quiz with it. So first thing, just a good habit, make sure you title what your form is so that you don't lose it in a mire of a bunch of untitled forms or unlabeled forms or whatever. So give it a title first. Do not forget about that. Then to actually make it a quiz, and this step is the same regardless of whether or not you have a Google quiz that already exists, is to go to Settings, and then you're going to click on the Quizzes tab. And you want to make sure that you click the slider to make this a quiz. This way Google knows that this is more than just a form. It needs to give points to things, and it needs to automatically grade some things that you tell it to. So some options that you have in here for quizzes. So the first one is this locked mode. And so this one, first of all, only works on Chromebooks. So if you have students taking this on iPads, PCs, whatever it happens to be, this locked mode is not going to work. But if a student is using a Chromebook and one that's managed by a school district, if you click this turn on locked mode, what it'll do is it'll make it so that the student cannot open any other tabs until they've submitted the quiz. So this is a way of making your Google quizzes a little more secure. Then you have the ability to release a grade. And so that can be either immediately after your submission, so once a student hits the submit button, their grade popped up and they're able to see what they got, or you can select later after manual review. That way, or what'll happen then is it'll wait until after you have gone through and graded it to make sure everything is correct and all the point values are good and stuff, and then it'll send it out to students via email that their quiz is ready to look at. And then you've got some check boxes down here for missed questions, correct answers, and point values. So basically, whenever a student goes to reopen their quiz, it lets them see what options are available. So if you want it so that students can tell which questions they missed and which ones they got correct, you want to make sure that missed questions are checked. Correct answers will show students what the correct answer should have been for a question, and the point values, how much was each thing worth. So regardless of what stuff you decide to check when you open this up, make sure you hit save after making it a quiz. And so now it'll be collecting things for points. So let's say for our first question, and all of these options over here, so add questions, all that stuff, it works just the same way that a Google form does. So let's say, how many sides does a square have? So now we have the ability to put stuff in. So let's say, and you can see Google can be sort of smart. If you put a really simple question in there, Google probably knows the answer is already going to be 4, so let's go ahead, and it's made for another option, and then now we've got some other suggestions that it has, so we'll go ahead and make our lives easy and just add them all in there. And then Google has automatically marked, hey, that's the correct answer, so it is good to go. But let's do something a little less simple, one that Google may not necessarily get. So what color is the sky? So here. Okay, or it will come up with an option, but let's go ahead and manually put stuff in. So let's say our options are green, blue, yellow, and let's just leave it at that, just those 3. So in order to mark a correct answer, you're going to want to go to answer key. And so here you can mark which one is correct. So hopefully we know skies are normally blue. They could be green or yellow, but that's probably a bad thing if they are. So you'll mark the correct answer and how many points you want this question to be worth. Let's say it's worth 1 point. Add answer feedback. So this is after students get their quiz submitted and they're able to look back over their answers. So students will not be able to see this feedback as they're taking the quiz for the first time. This will be after it has been graded and sent back to them. So you've got some options here. So for enter feedback, you can type something in like, look at the sky during the daytime. So this would just something to help clue them in as to why their answer was maybe incorrect or what they needed to do to get to the correct answer. So you can type something in there if you'd like. You can also put a link in for students to click on. So the link to, that's going to be the URL that you're going to want to type in. So whether that's to a website, a Google form, or a Google Doc, or slides, or something like that. And then text to display. So that's what's going to be the description. So maybe we do nasa.gov, and we found a specific website or a specific web page, so we've copied and pasted it, and it's all this stuff at the end. The text to display that we're going to put then would be maybe NASA website, so that students know where that link is going to take them. If you want to add more links, you can do that as well. After you hit the add button, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you want, you can insert a video. And so you can search for YouTube video, so just like other search functions on YouTube. So let's search for the sky, and it'll search through, and then so all of these options, which none of these are what we want because it's super basic, but basically if you were to type in the sky on YouTube, these are all the search options that'll pop up. An easier way to do it is to actually search on YouTube and then copy and paste the URL into there. Once you've done that, just hit select, and then when the student goes back to check their feedback, they'll be able to see that. And you'll notice also there are two tabs, one for incorrect answers and one for correct answers. So I've got look at the sky during the daytime with a link to the NASA website. For correct answers, notice all that has gone away, because if a student answers the question correctly, it'll show a different set of feedback. So we can maybe say, great job, or something like that. And again, you can put a video or a link in if you want. You have those options. So we'll hit save and go on for there. And so we can see the different feedback options that we have available to students. If you want to edit it, just click on the edit button. If you want to get rid of it, click on the trash can. And then you can see actually here the link that we put in. So you can click it to double check if you want, but of course if we click this, I just put in a bunch of gobbledygook, and so it knew to go to NASA, but this website does not actually exist, so it's not going to pop up. But you can check there to make sure A, you're going to the right place, or B, if maybe this is an older quiz. Sometimes websites change, and so it could be that that maybe the website is down, or they've changed where it's at, or something like that. So you can double check to make sure that the thing is actually working. Then another option we have, if we go here, are the different question types. And so there's a Google Doc linked in the description for these as to what all of them are, but we have a bunch of different options to choose from for our quizzes. And so some of them, the short answer sort of does it. Multiple choice checkboxes drop down. Linear, these guys will do it. Those are types that will be automatically graded by Google if you tell them, if you tell Google what the correct answer should be. But some of them, like the paragraph, the file upload, and the date and time, you're going to have to manually grade those yourself. But so let's say we go to paragraph. So let's say describe how photosynthesis works. And so this is going to be long answer text, so students are going to have to type out a long sort of thing. So if we go to the answer key here, let's say let's make this worth 5 points. But if you notice, there's no place for us to type in an answer, because again, Google isn't going to be able to grade an entire paragraph that's submitted. So instead, you're going to have to go through after students grade it to or after students take it to the responses tab, and after students have taken it, their responses will show up, and you can go through and manually assign points and things like that. But we do have, again, the option for that answer feedback. But again, since Google's not going to grade this automatically, whatever feedback you provide needs to be across the board for whether students got it correct or not. So just keep that in mind if those tabs don't pop up. If you ever want to check what your quiz is going to look like to students, you can click the send button, and then you can go ahead and get the link for it. So we'll go ahead and copy that link. Then just open up a new tab. We'll paste it in there. And so this is exactly what that quiz is going to look like. And this is the actual quiz. So if you go through and do the quiz, so let's say green, and we'll say, I don't feel like typing. Because we all know there's one student who will probably submit an answer like that if they go to take the quiz at all. So you can go through and just kind of see what is the quiz going to look like and what will it be like for students. So you know, do I need to do any modifications or anything like that? So we'll hit submit, just so that we have something to kind of look at. And so we can view our score. And so automatically, so we saw that the square does indeed have 4 sides. We got that one correct. What color is the sky? The sky is obviously not green, it's blue. So we missed that. And so the feedback that we got was for what happens if we miss a question. So again, we can click on that website and it'll take us where it was linked to. Then describe how photosynthesis works. And this is a big thing that if you don't keep track of it, your students are going to freak out. Because Google couldn't grade it on its own, it assumes the worst and assumes students didn't get any points, so it's going to mark it as wrong. And we all know students, especially the students who usually get everything right, if they see something marked as wrong that's not actually wrong, they're going to freak out, you're going to get an email, you're going to have to go through a whole explanation. So at the beginning, whenever you're setting up the quiz, this is where setting up the quiz so that you can turn it on later after manual review. That's where that's going to be really helpful, so that the student isn't able to see their score until after you've gone ahead and graded it. So anyway, so the student can tell, okay, well that was worth 5 points, but they don't necessarily know how many they got. So if you want to go through and grade it, we can look and we see we've got responses here. So we've got just a kind of overall sort of layout here. If we want to go to grade the stuff, we actually will need to go to individual. And so from here, you're going to be able to see all of the scores. If you need to go back and forth between students, so right now there's only been one submission, but you could click this arrow to go between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. If you need to go to a specific student, you can click the drop-down arrow. Multiple website or multiple names or email addresses would show up. You could just scroll, click whichever one you want to grade. But we can go through and look at stuff here. So let's say maybe for whatever reason we want to override this score. So maybe because the sky can be green if it's really, really stormy, we'll go ahead and give them that credit, that point back. And so we'll go ahead and mark it as 1. For these longer answers, you're going to have to manually enter whatever grade. So let's say we want to make this worth, because they answered it but didn't really do anything, we'll make it worth 1. Then we'll hit save. And so now the student's score is 2 out of 6. And so that's the process of going through and grading. And then if you want to go to import it into the gradebook really easily, you could go through and you could look at each individual student, or you could do the create spreadsheet option to create a spreadsheet, and then you can see all the scores at once. So that's the process of creating a Google quiz, or a quiz with Google Forms, and then a pretty basic of how the grading works.